Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Zach of Dark Hunt Entertainment, and I just wanted to say that I am still on hiatus, and as of recently, I've been like super busy with moving home, so that is what is up with the likely unfamiliar looking background is that I am talking from a new bedroom, in fact. So, yeah, and before I went to bed, I just wanted to give my short little review on Lightyear that I just saw in theaters. So, first of all, let me say that I didn't really mind or care about the lesbian kiss thing. Um, that's a non issue for me. And I guess getting bad things out of the way, I thought that the villain was bad. Like if you go seeing castings of the this movie or go watching enough trailers, you might get the idea that Zurg is gonna be the villain, but he was portrayed pretty badly, in my opinion, which I will actually get into that when I get into spoiler territory. But for right now, what are some other bad things? I guess there are some moments of where that I thought that Buzz was a little bit mm, passive. I don't know if that's a right term of where that they made him look a little bit kind of weak, but at the same time, he was still a whole lot more dignified, at least, than Toy Buzz was in Toy Story 4. So that's a thing. Let's see. Other bad things is the pacing actually did feel kind of rushed. The movie felt a little bit rushed and did not really take its time all that well, I feel. The story is nothing truly captivating, I guess. Like in the later portions of the movie, it does not have any high stakes drama or whatever. And really, I just watched Schaefer Productions review of this movie, and he says that there isn't any real high stakes when it comes to the civilization that Buzz and the rest of the characters have to fight for. Well, actually, th- never mind, never mind. I was about to say something. Um, Another bad thing was another thing that was kind of a little bit of a downer was I felt that this movie played its hand a little bit too soon. Like the most emotional moment in the whole movie was honestly at the bare beginning of the movie, which I guess I'll get into that in spoiler territory. Um, Good things about the movies that doesn't really go into spoiler territory. I will say that I liked Steele. Steele is her last name. I think her first name was Darcy or Darby or something, but she was like the old lady of the main characters. She was a bit of a kick-ass too, for that matter too, and she just had this sort of personality and I guess blunt or dry sense of humor or whatever that just I really found quite amusing to see it portrayed on screen. I will say that Chris Evans, I do not know of how much of the reasoning of why they recasted Buzz Lightyear from Tim Allen to Chris Evans is because, oh, Hollywood is hating more and more of conservatives, and Tim Allen is a conservative. I mean, honestly, in my opinion, Tim Allen is getting kind of old. Now, Tim Allen will always hold a special place in my heart, being a big fan of the original Toy Story movies, but honestly, he's getting pretty old, so it's all like sooner or later they are going to have to recast Buzz if they ever want to make any future Buzz Lightyear properties. I mean, Patrick Warburton voiced as Buzz Lightyear in the Disney cartoon series, so why is the whole recasting thing in of itself a bad thing? But I guess again, I haven't fully looked into it. If there is some anti-conservative hate coming from Disney as a motivating reason why they wanted to boot Tim Allen of the role, well then yeah, that's pretty bad. But by itself, I think Chris Evans did a fair job at voicing as Buzz. I don't think I could come up with a better idea to voice a potentially younger version of Buzz Lightyear. Although, to be fair, there were some moments of where that I thought that Chris did not sound quite like what I would feel Buzz Lightyear would sound like a younger version of Buzz Lightyear even. But yeah, that aside, the action was pretty cool. I thought that the relationship between Buzz and both of the Hawthorns, both Commander Hawthorne and her granddaughter, that they were pretty well, especially with the grandmother, the commander. Um, it was fairly believable. Their relationship, I mean, that shined in the beginning. The action was pretty good, especially for a Pixar movie. And there was like this one part. Actually, there are these couple of parts of where that one of where that Hawthorne Jr. I'm just gonna call her that because I cannot remember the first name of the either of the Hawthorns, but Hawthorne Jr. was like floating through space, and it was rather intense the way that the cinematography just portrayed space and how much of anxiety it can induce into somebody. Or maybe it's just because I watched it in theater and the theater experience kind of helps um, heighten your immersion into the moment. Either way, it was pretty good in my opinion. There was also one part of where that Buzz was just crashing through you know, crashing through a starship as it was exploding, and that was pretty intense. Like going towards the further end of the movie, and that's not really spoiler territory right there. So it definitely had its fun moments, and I will say as well that Schaefer Productions in his movie review mentioned about that he thought that Buzz was not like funny enough or whatever. But honestly, I did not really mind it so much. I mean, we're talking about the real person Buzz Lightyear, not the toy Buzz Lightyear. So it's not really too surprising to me that Buzz Lightyear, would play it more straight than just as a goofy cornball of a character. So yeah. Oh, and also Socks was pretty funny as well. Socks the cat, he was pretty entertaining to watch on screen. And I guess getting right now into spoiler territory, so here's your warning. So it turns out that there is plot twist an older Buzz Lightyear, a version of Buzz Lightyear that is older that ended up like traveling further back in or excuse me, further into the future, and then was able to travel back in time and meet up with younger Buzz Lightyear, the main protagonist, Buzz Lightyear. And he brought along with him Socks the cat. And Socks the cat, at one point, he turns around on older Buzz who turns out to be Zurg, by the way, and pretty much the bad guy. I'll get into more into him later. But getting on to the alternative version of Socks, the one moment of where that he says that he says that he likes the younger version of Buzz better than the older version of Buzz. That kind of spoke to me a little bit in that, Socks is the older version of Socks is realizing that he is completing his mission in, helping to be a therapy cat, a therapy robot cat to Buzz Lightyear. There's a car outside that I just heard there passing by. But that was, I like that. I like that little bit of sentimentality right there. And speaking of sentimentality, getting more into spoiler territory, in the first 20 to 30 minutes of the movie, Buzz, as he is like trying to be a test pilot for his crew for this colony that is being set up, he is a test pilot for them so as to find out how to recreate hyperspeed so that they can get off of this planet that they're stranded on so that they can get back home. And in the testing process, he ends up like speeding up time. Well, not speeding up time, but he slows down time for himself, and whereas everywhere else is going in regular time. So therefore, when what feels like a few minutes to him while he's in the middle of his test flight, it will be like 4 years for him, or for everyone else, excuse me. So as he does the testing more and more and more later on, Hawthorne Sr., his actual, compatriot friend at the beginning of the movie, who turns out to be Hawthorne Jr.'s grandmother, she ends up getting old and dying. And it was in that moment that it just made me to think, Hmm. Buzz Lightyear was kind of torn, it seemed. It does bring up a interesting question. He was kind of torn between the idea of having to do this test flight in order to save the rest of his crew, in order to try and get them back to normal space, contribute to that, but at the same time, he would also be making his own friends' lives pass right before his very eye, like miss out on years and years of experiences with his friends, friend, namely, um, Mrs. Hawthorne. Um, and so it just seemed like he was torn between the essentially greater good or be with his friend more consistently. It was an interesting thing to think about as you see that unfold of where that he looks at the hologram of his friend dying as she's just dying of old age. Um, what was another thing? I gotta say that I found it interesting and I kind of liked it a bit as to how small in scale that the story was throughout most of it, at least, especially the first two-thirds of it, of where that basically Buzz and Commander Hawthorne, they are the two main officers of a starship that is just meant to travel the galaxy or seek new life and colonize, I guess, but they end up getting stranded and they have to adapt essentially. And so what do? They create a little civilization right there that is just stranded away from the rest of you know main human civilization and whatnot. Um, and this is just a small scale story about them trying to find out how do we find our way to get no longer marooned on this planet and reconnect with the rest of civilization. And then more and more stakes, or at least are attempted to be built up. More and more stakes are found in that they have this new threat, that being Zurg and all of his Zurg bots, which I will get into why I did dislike the villain now. So Zurg turns out to be an older version of Buzz. So Zurg, I thought, was a kind of a cool character in Toy Story 2 and in the Buzz Lightyear series. But here they revamped him into not a robot emperor of a robot empire. Instead, they turned Zurg into a mech suit, essentially. A mech suit that has older Buzz inside of him. And when I saw the big reveal of oh, Zurg turns out to be older Buzz, and I found out that oh, the villain is going to be Buzz, so the movie is going to essentially be Buzz Lightyear versus himself. It was going to be essentially who I thought was the coolest character in all of Toy Story being against himself. I thought we were going to have some interesting dynamic in the same way of Toy Story 2, of where that Buzz Lightyear was fighting with his self in, well, Toy Story 2, when he met another toy version of himself and was just brawling with him throughout Al's toy barn and all that stuff. Oh man, I love that movie for that reason. But no, it wasn't. It was kind of squandered. It wasn't executed that well because the motivating reason as to why that older Buzz is bad is because of the fact that he was about to be arrested after he had done his last test flight. For him to do his last test flight, he had to essentially steal the starship, and because of that, he got or was about to be arrested by all of his fellow colonists. And so instead of letting himself get arrested, he just flew away and flew away until he ended up blasting far into the future. And he just found a whole bunch of tech that he just stolen for himself and then went back in time. Like, I find it kind of hard to believe that he was able to steal as big of a starship as he did in the movie with all these minion Zurg bots in them. I find it really hard to believe because Buzz Lightyear in this movie wasn't portrayed to be that skilled of a warrior, honestly, but it's whatever. A main thing that really I found not executed well with the Buzz Lightyear is his motivation. Um, I don't know, it just does seem kind of flimsy. You'd have to see the movie for yourself to see for yourself. I don't know how to explain it of how exactly I felt like it was flimsy right now. And in fact, this review is getting kind of long, so I'm just going to say right now, 6 out of 10. I think it was. I think that's a fair rating. Maybe a 7 out of 10 if I was being generous, because there are more things about this movie that I like as compared to Schaefer's Productions. But there are also a lot of bad things about this movie that I agree with Schaefer on that are bad. I mean, excuse me. Like Buzz Lightyear turned out to be inside Zurg, and just the villain, the concept of the villain in Buzz Lightyear, in the Lightyear movie in general. That was pretty bad, and multitude of other nitpicks. But anyway, that's all I have to say. Hope you all have a good night, and see you later, and God bless.